Welcome back to all. Just wait the other guests. We are in a roundtable, so welcome to Simona. Ciao Simona, welcome.
Welcome.
So now let's wait also Monika. Let's wait for Monika now that maybe she's joining. And though we can start the first part. Okay, let's start eventually, and then maybe Monika can join after. So we'll start the live. Okay, let's start. So welcome again to this new session of Climate Social Forum. We are making a lot of insight today. There is a very full session. And here we have Simona Fabiani. And in a few, I think that it will join also Monika. So I will start with the Simona. Simona, she's from CISL, and she's the CISL is an Italian union. And with Simona and also with the other guests, we will address the topic of just transition. We told about transition, energy transition, industrial transition, but the transition will not happen if it is not respecting the human rights and the worker rights. So I will give the floor to Simona to give like a few insights about this concept of just transition.
Thank you, Domenico, and hello to everybody. And yes, as you say, Domenico, just transition is a concept that keep together the need of social justice and climate justice. So it's not only the fight against climate change, but at the same time, the goals of just transition is to obtain all the development goals and obviously human rights, full employment, equity, and all the development goals. And is a transition is a very big issues. We are not in the way to win this very deeply and radical transformation that we need, and we are not in the time that are needed to obtain, to respect the 1.5 goals. So there is a strong work to do, and all trade union movement with the other environmental and social movement are engaged to fight for this objective.
Okay, thank you. And how do you think that it's possible to conciliate just transition with, I don't know, development and also new workplaces and so on?
Okay, it's not difficult in theory, because we know that in a new sustainable development model, we will have a lot of more job than that we are losing. But the problem is to guarantee that there is just transition measure that can help the community and the worker during the transformation. And for this is we need that there is a open in the democratic participation of all community, trade union, movement, and local authority that have to be involved in this discussion. And the other issue is investment, because to create the new job and to help this transformation, we need a lot of investment and at this moment there are not I'm sorry for my English. And we need to help also research and entrepreneurs to keep this way to the transformation of all the sector of the economy, because all sector of the economy need to be changed to decarbonize, but also to respect all the environment and to reduce pollution, and so to change from linear to circular economy. So it's very, very important transformation, and we need to help this change. Domenico?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I was
Hello.
saying that are you thinking that the government are fostering the concept of just transition, and how they refer to the declaration of just transition? that was stated into COP24.
You are asking me about the Italian government
Yeah,
on
also, for example, but in general, do you think that the Just Transition Declaration is going to be implemented and there is like a path towards that?
Just Transition Declaration is a step. Also, Paris Agreement is a step, and there is also the ILO document on just transition are all important documents that can help government. But then a strong role is from the national state, and there are some countries that are facing just transition with also the, creating commission and working with all social society. And this is not the case of our country, because in Italy there is nothing about just transition. We are asking with also the other actor of social society to open a democratic discussion on the planning of just transition, and also of the measure like reskill of the worker, universal social safety net, and the creation of new job. But at the moment there is not no answer about from our Italian government. And also the just transition mechanism made by the European Union can give us an help, but also this mechanism is not enough, because it is more for regions that are deeply linked to the fossil fuel resources, and is not for all the sector of the economy. So we need to increment, to increase the resources and the measure to guarantee that no one is left behind.
Thank you, Simona. In the meanwhile, I'll greet Monika that has joined the session.
Thank you, Monica.
Hi, Monika, for joining, and thank you for being here. Monika is from the International Students Union. So, Monika, I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself and to start the talk about the topic that is the just transition.
Thank you. And I would like to clarify, I did spend half an hour in the wrong room. So it's not that I didn't want to show up on time, but the organizers managed to send me to a whole other session where I was waiting to be given eventually the floor. So hello, everyone. My name is Monika. I work mainly with education for the moment. And I think that plays a large role in the just transition, because in the end, we're currently going through such a transition of society that we're not going to have the jobs in the future that we currently have. And we're not going to need the same types of skills that we're currently building. So we're setting up major parts of the population to fail in the new economy. And I think that's really concerning and very unfair, that we're going to leave some people behind because they didn't access the skills that were necessary to meaningfully contribute in a sustainable society. And my worry is that we are not going to spend the necessary resources on this, and that either we're going to not transition, which would be the most unfair thing at all, or we're going to make a type of transition where we forget about some parts of the population, and that's going to undermine the whole support from the public to actually making the transition. So that's why I fight a lot for the education and the upskilling, and making sure that people have a real possibility of getting a green job, and we don't just move society without also moving the people. So that's what we are mainly working on in that area.
Thank you very much, Monica. And sorry, I apologize for technical problems, but thank you for being here. I want to make a question to you both. We addressed the several points of the just transition. So the combination also between green jobs and new opportunities, and also the importance of taking care about the less, maybe the one that have more disadvantage and the ones that could not be left behind. And so, in properly this, do you think that in current pandemic, there will be some opportunities also to implement the concept of just transition properly in a new vision on the post-pandemic scenario? Monica, if you want to start, I saw you.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the green restart in many countries, and it's really a historic opportunity to say, now that we anyways need to make a kick to the economy to get people jobs after the huge financial crisis, then we can kill two birds with one stone and make sure that those jobs are green. I don't know about your countries. In mine, we got a few windmills out of that. Nothing impressive, but a little bit. And I really think that was a waste of opportunity because we took a giant loan. Every government did, I think, and really threw so much new money into society. I'm going to do it again probably later when we restart after another wave of shutdown. And we didn't spend all of that on the green transition, even though there are so many jobs in that. In fact, we gave a lot of it to the business as usual and the quite dirty industries. So I think we already wasted a lot of our opportunity, but we're going to fight that the second time around they make a real green restart, hopefully.
Thank you, Monica. Simona, your point of view?
Yes, and also I think that the pandemic, the tragedy of the pandemic give us a great opportunity. First of all, because it was more clear the connection between climate crisis, environmental devastation, economic crisis, social crisis, poverty, and also health crisis. The link that we cannot think to resolve a crisis or a problem, we didn't take in care all the aspect of the sustainability. So I think that this would be a message for us. And we have also a big opportunity in Europe, for example, because for the first time we left behind austerity concept, and there is an injection of a lot of money that the country have in their disponibility to help the economy, but also to force a transition that in the idea of the European Commission would be first of all for green transition, digital transition, health system, and the creation of jobs. So take together all the crises. So it's a big opportunity, but also in Italy, this is at the moment a problem because we are discussing of the national plan for recovery, and this is not the level of the discussion. And also during the pandemic, a lot of state aid for the enterprises are already given to the economy, but in all this money that are already spent, there are not conditionality about climate and environment. So we spent a lot of money to maintain business as usual economy. And this is very, very sad, because money is not infinite and our time is finished. So we have a big opportunity, but we risk to lose also this, I think, last opportunity to change really our system and our society.
Okay, thank you, Simona. Now, I want to make a question, one for Monika, in particular, one for Simona, then we will start a round of discussion. To Monika, I want to ask, you come from the Students' Union, and also from a student's point of view, which are the main points to address the just transition also for students? We are talking about workers with Fabiana and so on, but also the students are a category that need to be included into the just transition. And also considering the very mobilization that the youths that are students are fostering on climate change. So which is the point of view also from like the students' part?
Yeah, we can definitely feel from our members that they want to be educated for the future and not for the past, and that they are very concerned about not being given the correct skill set to contribute to a sustainable society. Furthermore, being a student often also means being a low-income citizen. So people also struggle to have accessibility of greener products, because society is currently built in a way where being green can be more expensive. And there is sort of an overlap of identities there, where in one way students have a lot of, I don't want to call it privilege, they have a lot of power in the future, many of them, especially if you're going to be, like in my case, an engineer, or in other cases, something that puts you in a position in society where you actually have power. Like it matters that the engineers we produce or the lawyers we produce, that they care about the planet and they understand that I can be an engineer in a way that destroys the planet, or I can be an engineer in a way that helps. And my education giving me the skills to understand that and to act accordingly is important. So on the one hand, we are like agents of power and change, but on the other hand, it intersects with being a relatively poor part of the population who are living on a very limited budget and really need to be given the opportunity to also access sustainable things in their everyday life.
Thank you, Monica. And on the other side, I ask to Simona, which is the point of view of the workers, also inside the workers' world. This concept is like passing through also the culture, and how the worker culture is fostering this opportunity now that we are discovering that work and also ecological transition are not properly in contrast, as we thought sometimes in the past. Now we discover that there is the both crises are working together. So, Simona.
Yes, I know that trade union movement is working on these issues from many and many years, I think from the beginning of the discussion on climate change. So it's not a news. And I think that within worker there is feelings with this kind of approach, and is also growing. We have some problem with the workers that are directly working in the fossil fuel sector, but not because they don't agree with our analysis, or with what we are discussing now. Also, they know that there are a lot of opportunity in a reconversion of the economy, but they don't see concrete alternative, because if, for example, you are planning to close a coal plant and there are no investment in your region to create green job, this worker have the only opportunity to defend their old job, and they need to work for their life, for their dignity, for their family, and so they defend what they have. And for this is really important that we fight for a just transition plan and just transition measure, because every worker have the right to know what is their future, the worker, but also the community, because maybe also that the worker can find a solution with the enterprises, like retirement anticipated, or they can be go to another plant of the same enterprise. But we need also to ensure of every territories and every community to have job also for the future, not only for the actual workers, but also for young people who lives in this region and that need to know and also to discuss, to participate to the planning of their future. So we want to also have the democratic opportunity to discuss what would be the future of our country, of our region, of everyone community. So if we want to invest in renewable energy or in the health or in research or whatever, we want to discuss with people. It would be not a central imposed decision.
Thank you both Monika and Simona. Yes, properly in the keynote of the session, we addressed the possibility to the regenerative economy to be fostering new jobs. We can pass from productivism, extractivism, like an industry that is like taking from the nature, from a work that is regenerate nature. Yes, on this, I want to ask your last thoughts, both to Monica and Simone, and then let's give the floor to the participant to maybe question and so on. Want to start? Okay, Simona.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do you say, Domenico?
I said about the regenerative economy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, this would be a great opportunity, and in particular in our country, in Italy, when there is a very fragile territories. We are really exposed to the climate change risk, and so we have a lot to invest in adaptation, in take care of the territories, hydrological disaster, and so on. We would create a very important regenerative job, and we think that this role would be in a strong state role to create also directly job in this sector. And this is a proposal from our trade union confederation from a lot of years ago, and we still think that these priorities for the country would be a priority for the state creation of job. But the other things is take care of the planet and take care of people. So also the health system, and we know in this period how important it is, and also education system. These are the strong pillar, maybe the words, I don't know, when state would invest in this period.
Thank you. Monica, to you.
Yes, I think it's a very important point about moving from basing your economy on extraction to really thinking about regeneration in every sector. Maybe most obviously in the sectors that deal directly with the land. And that's also where education comes back into the picture, because for a few generations now, we have been teaching people to behave as though resources are unlimited. And therefore also the jobs have become very based on taking and taking from nature without thinking about that we can run out and that we can undermine our own living conditions, which then also leads to some people wanting to like cling on to the last oil so we can have employment in that for another few years, even though we will run out and the problem will come where we need to invest in finding another way of getting energy, since even if there wouldn't be climate change, we would also eventually run out, right? So I think really educating people to think about, okay, my sector, how would it look if we were behaving within the planetary boundaries? If we had to run the agriculture in a way that doesn't undermine the health of the soil, or if we had to produce energy in a way that doesn't undermine the accessibility of our resources, then we would have to rethink a lot of sectors and not disappear all the jobs, of course, but run them in a whole different way. And that would require educating people to also run them in a different way. And as Simona was mentioning, it would require a lot of state support and intervention, because switching from a job based on extraction to a regenerative approach is probably very difficult and very expensive, and we cannot do it if not the government will give money to it.
Thank you very much to both. And now let's give the floor to the participant. I saw some in the chat. Maybe Jeff, if you want to take the floor and let's speak about what you wrote down.
Oh, well, what I wrote down is for itself. I can come back to that, but I was just thinking another thought was provoked by both what Monica and Simona and you have said, well, what all of you have said. And I can't find it just now. I mean, there's probably like 8 or 10 economic measurements that are alternatives for gross domestic product, right? And we haven't spoken about that, right? I was just searching, and so unless you mentioned it in the last 2 minutes, it hasn't been spoken about in this session, right? We may have spoken about it before in some of our discussions, but you know, right? And we could discuss that. You know, the what one alternative, one of them is about, you know, oh, this should all be based on health and well-being, right? That is really what we're trying to measure, not how much can we squeeze from, for lack of a better term, Mother Earth, you know, but I would say how much can we squeeze from, you know, the ecology and the health, really, the health and suffering of these millions and millions of people. 91% of the world, according to WHO's numbers, right? 91% of the world is exposed to air pollution that's above their current standards, and by hopefully by May, June of 2021 of next year, WHO, we're going to have new air quality guidelines for the first time since 2005, and of course you can expect some of them to be lower because I mean there was a study in the US of 63 million pensioners, right, and who were receiving on government assistance, Medicaid, Medicare for the health. And so they could correlate even 1 microgram per cubic meter health impacts. And so our choices of combustion, our choices in methods of materials and processes, especially agricultural processes, these things add up, and they all are impacting each other. I mentioned in the previous session how, Monika, were you in the previous session or maybe not? I don't know. Yeah, so CERN this year, right? So the tiny, super tiny particle people, they also have, and this is great for anyone who watches this who's a citizen scientist or scientist, researcher. I mean, I reached out to the chief of the Federation of American Scientists a few days ago, and I told him, hey, there's this cloud group at CERN, and they've got this artificial atmosphere. And it's real, and I mean, we're learning things, and guess what? They published in May, and I jumped up and down and screamed about it, and 14 people liked it on Twitter, right? So I don't know, right? But I mean, I'm still putting it into some presentations. I didn't do it today, but what they found was that our overuse of fertilizers on crops, the nitrogen, right? Of course, that leads to ammonia. We've known that ammonia and leads to additional formation of particles. But we didn't know what they found in the CERN study was up to 100 times. And so now when farms are very close to an urban city, that's no longer a sustainable thing, especially if we're still doing anything there. Even if we remove, I would say, and it was all zero emissions energy generation going on there, right? We would still be generating particles from some processes that we do in manufacturing, and so look, it is a chemistry lab, everything's chemistry out there, but that's where circular economy and sustainable methods, it has to all happen that way, right? And so this, getting back to how does the GDP thing, well, look, someone breaks their arm, and someone is injured or dies of air pollution. And today, as I mentioned in the previous session, was the first air pollution. The air pollution exposure will be on a death certificate in the UK for the first time ever. That's near and dear to me. I keep repeating it. Dominika, I didn't tell you, but I probably haven't told you, but I advise the family. I'm a good friend of Rosie for about 2.5 years now, and so I've been supporting her and all this time, and so I know Ella's siblings, and they've stayed in my house, and so it's, to me, it's very impactful, and I can't even think yet because I wasn't ever, we were fighting for this for so long, and I can't think what the impact might be. But this goes back to the GDP. Ella's, so whatever money was made, and that's not the case with the NHS, but in the US or so many countries, right? These things these are not positives to the economy, and they shouldn't serve. And the same thing would happen for climate impacts, right? And how it affects people's health, and what are, if we had to then repair this family that's lost a primary breadwinner, because let's say it's not an Ella, but it's your 52-year-old uncle who had a stroke. 25% of all stroke deaths, WHO associates, and we are to air pollution, right? And this is by comparing relative risks and everything else. Yeah, I can go on and on. So
tomorrow we will have the session with
yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah, but you know what? Look, there's no such thing as sustainability and health, right? How is it sustainable if I'm unhealthy? So I'm sorry, there's a lot of fake news going on out there right now of, Exxon has got, we're sustainable and green, or what? No, stop.
Okay. I agree. So let's take also, there is Giancarlo question. Let's take a couple and then give the possibility to Simona and Monika to respond.
Yes, good evening. First, thank you to Simona, Monika, and Jeffrey for your contribution. I have an answer. It seems to me that there are two particularly critical aspects: automation and smart working. Automation can cause unemployment. Smart working can improve the quality of life of workers, but also provoke situations of alienation if incorrectly projected. What do you think? What think the trade unions, the youth unions, and the researchers on how face this challenge. I think timing of the reforms is also important. It seems to me that now there is an excess of automation because there are too many people unemployed. It would be better to postpone some kinds of automations when and if it would be possible. What do you think about?
Who wants to start? Simona.
Okay. First of all, I agree with Giancarlo that smart working can be a positive effect on the mobility and on the environmental, but from the point of view of a worker is very dangerous because you are alone, you are, and there is a strong risk that there is alienation. So is not, I think is not the solution. Maybe it's important is in this particular moment, but it is not for us the solution for the mobility and the sustainability of the city, smart working. About automation, I don't think that we can think to stop the automation, but there are a lot of jobs that cannot be, that human effort cannot be removed. I think all the sector when there is the health of, the take care of people in the education, in the health sector, in the in all the sector that take care of people, and also the sector when we have to work in sustainable agriculture and so on. So we think that when we speak of planning, this is one of the importance of planning, that you can calculate the job you will lose in, for example, in fossil fuel sector, but also with the automation on with other change that we cannot stop. But at the same time, you have to write what is the future of the new job, and so have in mind that our goal is full employment, and we have to create job to give everyone the opportunity to work. And we are thinking also of reducing the work hour, because there is less work, but we have to work everybody, so we can reduce the time of job. And we are proposing to use the reduction of the hour of job to increment the qualification, the skilling of worker.
Thank you, Simona. Monica, to you.
Thank you. These are also really good points. Coming back to the point from Jeffrey around the GDP and how we measure wealth and sustainability, I think it's always good to remember that the only reason we have money in the first place is because we had some natural resources and we wanted to be able to more easily trade them. So the only real capital out there is really human resources and natural resources, and human resources meaning our time, right? So we trade stuff that we take from nature, which there's obviously a limited amount of that, and we trade our time. And I think it's a good idea from Simona to share it better, so that everyone can have an opportunity to work and fewer would be unemployed, but also so maybe we don't spend so many burnouts as we do currently, because we have the work really centered on too few shoulders, because they want to make more money that comes from natural capital. So there's an imbalance in there where we could probably share better. And just like the green transition is coming, and stopping it is to save short-term jobs would be unwise, in the same way, I think the digital and in other ways technological development is coming and has some good things with it that we will need to take. And trying to stop it is a very short-term solution as a students or workers movement, but trying to figure out how we make sure it gets implemented in a good way that benefits us and not in a way that makes it worse for us is the smart and forward-thinking way of looking at it. But yeah, it's a whole shuffle of the way we trade things that needs to be taken into consideration, because currently we've geared the system to just extract more resources, even though there is a limit to them, and to also burn humans down, some of them, while others are not working at all. And none of those two things are clearly very healthy for humans. I mean, working too much, you're going to stress down, but not having a job at all is also, even if not for financial reasons, but also for the social being part of a community thing that gives you, it's also not good to not have that. Also, another thing is that a bunch of people, women mainly, are doing a lot of work that they're not getting paid for. So there's also that to take into account, that there's a big contribution to our economy that currently is not remunerated at all. And freeing up some of those hours would also maybe be healthy for the economy. Now, how to do that is very difficult, I'm sure, and has to do with how we price things and taxing negative externalities and carbon and other very difficult things in society. But I definitely think it's healthy to think about how what we have built right now clearly isn't working out and is just leading us to take things from nature and not treat humans very well either. So definitely something needs to be fixed about that.
Thank you very much, Monica. So let's have a last round of interaction or question with the speakers. Then we will move to the next session. So feel free to add something or to take the chance.
I want to point out, Domenico, you haven't commented. I want to hear what you think.
Me? Okay. Thank you. I will take the question, but before saying mine, I want to also give the opportunity to the participant to interact. Okay, I'll take the chance to spend a couple of minutes of my vision. I will start with a brief story. I was in COP24, and was for me and for other also young people that were attending the Conference of Parties, a very important Conference of Party for several reasons. But I discovered, going back in Italy, that another important point that we reached in COP24 was the Just Transition Declaration. And at that time, the Just Transition Declaration was not so known, for example, by citizenships and municipality and so on. At the local level, was not very known. And so, for me, it begins like to be a concept that give the measure also to the change. When we talk about change, in that period, we were famous about the Gilets jaunes in Europe, of course, no? And this demonstrates also for the ones that wanted the change, but without changing the mindset, that the transition has other things to consider. And for me was like very important, because give a shape to the change, I can say. Not just a change like a little bit anarchic or without any direction, but a change that with a direction. And we cannot have like ecological transition, economical transition, or whatever you want to call that, without taking care of social rights and the rights of the most disadvantaged. And this, for me, takes like the ground floor. And from that point, okay, I was young there and I didn't make all this thinking and so on. But from there, it helps me to have the base ground.
Yeah, yeah. Well, these denial of rights, clean air is a human right, clean water is a human right, safe food, a safe food supply. And, we were talking earlier, ozone and oxides of nitrogen, these damage crops. And these are created by air pollution. Air pollution leads to increased risk of climate chaos, climate crisis. It's happening now. So again, this goes back again to costs. And so when we're operating in an economy that's focused on, and I have to be blunt, I'm a geographer. A lot of people don't know that, but Domenico knows, and I work for a geographer. But these have costs, and so if these costs are not accounted for, ozone is damaging crops. Where is that in the farmer's economic? No, it's just it's there. It's not as good a quality. The person's not going to give them as much money for the spinach they've grown, right? Because you've got some yellowing, you've got some damage there. I don't know what's going on with you. Well, they happen to be near the city, and ozone is forming because of the transportation energy that's being used and the emissions from that, and so that's part of it. And then just everything, all of these things. If we look at the real cost of them, and these people who are denied their rights for environmental injustice, this is real cost that lasts generations. And how do we put a value on that? So really, we have to value these things, and we have to build the way we measure our progress. And sustainable development goals is a good step towards that, I believe. But we have to use technology. I believe, though, and this all sounds awful, but I believe we're at the dawning of a golden age, and I believe that technology and what we're able to do, and knowing how to do it, and knowing what the problem is, and knowing how to fix it, I think we have all the capability and intelligence to do it. Now, some of these things that, I believe agriculture, we can do away with a lot of automation. The previous speaker was asking, or I forget his name, Giancarlo. Yeah, and so yeah, look, it's just we have to reset button and look at this in a very real way. And Simona mentioned circular economy. These types of things, they need to be more than just, memes and things like this. It has to be real, and we have to get the policymakers at every level, national, state, and community, to recognize it.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. There's someone that wants to add the last thing, then let's run to the next session. So Monica, Simona, if you want to add something, your closing remarks. Okay, I will just closing with something that I hope that could help to sum up the things, and is something that also we start with in this Climate Social Forum. In the open plenary, we had the opportunity to listen to Gramenos Mastroianni, that is an Italian diplomat that is very fostering this concept that, in a way, I think that contains both the vision of Jeff and both the vision that we addressed with the just transition. That what is like good for the planet, finally, it turns good for humanity and for humankind. And we have to like return to this value, because we forgot that. And we think that like going against nature, exploit, extract is the only way to survive. Is the contrary. We have to rediscover how it will benefit also to have like a regenerative economy, a regenerative culture, and also it has effects on our health finally. if like I put up a, like, I don't know, I know a girl in Italy that is making a business for planting trees. So exchange in a way, create a market to like plant trees. Is like something like a regenerative business. Finally, it turns also in benefits for the whole society, like the ecosystem effects and so on, and ecosystem services and so on. We have to like reshape this linkage. And also Mario Agostinelli, the speaker, also pointed out this point, because he said we use science, we learn in schools that science is needed to product, exploit nature and so on. This phase has finished. Now we have to learn science and use science to regenerate. So sorry for being a little bit long, but I think that will connect a bit. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Domenico, and goodbye, Monica and Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you. Hope to see you physically soon. And in the meanwhile, let's stay connected and safe. Thank you, Monica, again for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and happy holidays when you get them. Take care. Wash your hands.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, dears, let's jump in the last session of the day.